Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the fifth episode of Soulful Branding Live with Lulu. So one of my guilty pleasures in life is time spent on Pinterest. There was a season where Friday nights would consist of me on the couch, in my slanket with no shame, with a cold ginger beer in my hand and Pinterest on my laptop. And I loved it. Luckily, I can also justify Pinterest time during my work hours. And today, I'm going to give you permission to do the same. So whether you're working on branding for someone else, or whether you're the one who's looking for branding support, or indeed working on your own branding, today's episode is for you. So we're going to be exploring how Pinterest can be a very useful resource in the visual part of your branding or rebranding process. But let me just put this disclaimer out there. Pinterest is in no way incentivizing me to talk about them. In fact, as much as I recommend Pinterest as a tool for this process, you could very well use Google Images or some other visual search engine. You could even use references in the real world. In fact, back in the day, before Pinterest even existed, I would collect all sorts of flyers, posters, and magazine clippings and put them all in a big box. So in those days, my Pinterest was a big box in my studio, which I still have somewhere. So in case this is your first episode, I'd like to quickly introduce myself. I'm Lulu Kitololo. I'm an artist, designer, brand consultant, festival organizer, and I also run a women's business network. So I truly believe that creativity can change the world. I'm passionate about inspiring people to harness theirs in building businesses and lives that make their hearts sing. So in 2017, I launched the Soulful Branding Challenge. It's an online course designed to help people find their voice, find their tribe, and then deliver to that tribe the magic that only they can. Since then, I see soulful branding at play in so many aspects of business and life, and this series of videos exists to explore those. So whenever I'm embarking on a branding project, I first really need to understand the brief. Sometimes my clients will send me a thorough brief, but oftentimes I have to support them in developing one. I'm going to take you through how I do that, and it's a really useful exercise for you to do, even for yourself, if you're in the process of rebranding or branding. So I do this by collecting some key information, either through a conversation with them, through a questionnaire, or a combination of the two. And the following things are the most important things I need to establish. So first one is, what do you do? What's your business about? What products or services do you offer? Next, I ask, what are your long-term goals for your business? Because ideally, your branding should support the achievement or attainment of those goals. What do you want to be known for? This is such an important question, so much so that I dedicated a whole episode to this, and you can check it out. It's episode number 1. Next, I ask, who are your main peers? So as most of you know, I use this term instead of competitors because I like to maintain the mindset that when we're true to ourselves, there is no real competition. So I feel that peers is a much more constructive word to use. Who is your ideal target audience, and what do they want or need from you? So I challenge people to be really, really specific about who their ideal client or customer is. You know, really get into the head, the mindset of that person, really explore their life. What do they dream about? What do they want? What do they enjoy? And what frustrates them? I want to feel as if I know this person for real. Next, how do you address the wants and needs of this person? The next one is really important, and this is, what are your values? So what are the things that drive what you do? What's the passion behind it coming from? Next, how do you want your branding to feel, or what feeling do you want it to evoke in your ideal client or customer? Emotion is so powerful, we needn't shy away from it. Instead, we should embrace it, even in business. Next, I like to find out what brands or visuals my client likes, and indeed which brands or visuals they don't like. And last but definitely not least, I ask, what made you choose us as a potential partner for this project? I started including this last question to ensure that my clients know what they're expecting. For instance, I am not the person for you if you need to create something that's super corporate. So clearing that up from the beginning saves everybody a lot of time and potentially money too, and heartache. So before I go on a tangent, you can check out the notes for 2 articles I've written, one with tips on finding the right designer for you, and another with advice on how to save money when commissioning creative work. So now on to the fun stuff. So once all this information is clear, all this information about the business and about the brand aspirations, the exploration can begin. It's an open-ended exercise. Inspiration is always a result of curiosity. There really is no formula. So these are simply prompts to start that journey of discovery. So you can begin by looking at how similar businesses or your peers have branded themselves. If my client is an art museum, I might type in art museum branding into the Pinterest search, or art museum logo. When I'm presented with all the results of those keywords, I'll take a closer look at those that instinctively speak to me. So I'm just going with my feelings and what I'm drawn to. I'll hover over those images and open them in a new tab. And when I look at them, on their own, if I'm still feeling them, I'll save them. I'll also look at the related items that Pinterest automatically generates. You can find a grid of these below the pin in question. So along with doing this for businesses in a similar space to my clients, I'll repeat this process for all of the following pathways. So going back to that question of what do you want to be known for? So if, for example, my client said African flavor, I may look up African art museums or African branding. So search terms are always an experiment. You may try something and it doesn't bring you the kind of results you were expecting. And if so, you just adjust your keywords and try something else until you get what it is you need. So for the question about peers, I'll look up the businesses they mentioned and see what comes up. So if those peers aren't so widely known, maybe your peers are, very much localized to your town, for instance. Sometimes Google can often generate better results than Pinterest on this one. So, you might want to extend where you're searching. So for the question about the ideal client or customer and what they need or want from you. So if, for example, their audience wants help simplifying their lives, I might look up simplicity branding. I know as a term it might sound strange, but if you actually try search for simplicity branding on Pinterest, you'll be presented with images that evoke a real specific vibe. You can then see if that's a vibe that feels right for your project, or even if there's specific images in that listing that inspire you. For the question about values, I'll always challenge people to go beyond the obvious things when they're answering this question. It's very easy for us to say quality, integrity, reliability, and I'm here yawning because those are things that we should expect from every business and every brand, right? So I'm talking about distinctive values, the ones that really set you apart. I'll then translate these into something searchable. So for example, if one of the values mentioned is around challenging the status quo, I might look up rebellious branding or activist design and see what results come out then. So down to the question about what feeling you want your branding to evoke in your ideal client or customer. Again, I'll always challenge people to push this response. So, inspired as an answer is lovely, but it's too broad. What kind of inspiration do you want to stimulate in people? So if the answer is something like spiritually inspired, I'll search for spiritually inspired branding, or even just spiritual branding. And again, I'll get a total vibe, a total feeling from the results that come up. So next, the question about what brands and visuals that my client likes. So I will actually search for these brands or these types of visuals and see what recommendations come up. And indeed, for the brands and visuals that they don't like, I'll use the same approach, only this time it's about me being very clear on what I shouldn't be guided by, on the things that I shouldn't be trying to emulate in the brand that I create. So we're back to this question around what made you choose us as a potential partner for this project. So along with this question, helping to ensure that all parties are aligned, as I mentioned before, it can also be used for the exploration process. So if somebody answered that they wanted to work with me because of my vibrant use of color, I can look for more inspiration that uses color in interesting, vibrant ways. So it's also guidance. Now, I wanted to share a note about self-control. It's easy to go on these journeys of discovery all day long, right? It can be hard to stop yourself when you feel you've got enough. You might tell yourself, maybe there's just one more spark of inspiration that's going to make all the difference. Resist, it's a trap. It's often procrastination in disguise, at least for me, I can acknowledge that. So you may want to give yourself a time limit for each pathway of exploration in order to stay focused and not let Pinterest or whatever tool you're using take over your day. So by this point, you'll likely have saved quite a bunch of images. Now it's time to do some sorting. Look at all of them again. Perhaps that there's some that you don't feel as strongly about anymore. Maybe you found better things as the process went on. You found things that spoke to you more. So here's a chance to cull what you don't need. At this point, I usually actually download the images and start to organize them in different categories that feel right. Sometimes they're based on the questions before, but sometimes they just emerge. And I'll create a folder for each one. I'll then create mood boards. I use Adobe InDesign for this, but you could easily do this in a PowerPoint or on a Google Slides presentation. The aim of the mood boards is to clarify my thinking into solid concepts that I can move forward with, but it's also a more presentable way of sharing my ideas with colleagues and clients, etc. So this is how my branding process begins. I'd love to hear about what's worked for you, and if you do try some of these strategies, let me know how it goes and let me know if you need support. If you have any questions, please do share them in the comments. Now, if your branding needs some love, or even if you want to review that it's still working for you as best it can, check out my 1-hour free webinar, 5 Steps to Level Up Your Soulful Brand. It covers how to express yourself in your business. So back to that emotions part and also just really finding your voice. It covers how to connect with and articulate the soul of your business to others, how to get in touch with the people you want to serve, those ideal clients and customers, how to prioritize your communications channels so that it's manageable and effective, but also how to make them amazing, and how to create a visual impact that does your brand justice. This is something that I always cry about when I see an amazing brand and just feel that they're not presenting themselves in a way that is really doing justice to the amazing work that they're doing. So don't be that person, yeah? So the webinar, again, it's called 5 Steps to Level Up Your Soulful Brand, and you can sign up for it via the link in the notes. It's bit.ly/soulful branding webinar. You'll have instant access once you sign up, so you can watch it anytime. However, if you watch it by next Thursday, 29th of August, you'll get to take advantage of 2 special bonuses for the Soulful Branding course that starts this September. This will be the last session of the Soulful Branding course I run this year. So it's an opportunity for you to get your branding in order and start the new year with a bang. So check out that webinar and check out the course. And stay tuned for episode 6 next week. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next time, I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. Thank you. Bye.